Hello, everyone. Welcome to Masters in Travel. This week, I'm super excited to welcome back Grace Van Hollebeke. Did I get it? Grace Van Hollebeke. I'm practicing, you guys. She
Nailed
has a
it.
new last name. Can we first say congratulations to Grace on the fabulous wedding?
Thank you so much. I know the new last name is a bit of a mouthful, so yes, you nailed it. It's kind of like Hollebeke girl, so we're
I
just
mean,
rolling with
that's the
it.
perfect way to remember it. I've got Gwen Stefani in my head.
Exactly. Like, what a great way to associate with your name.
Exactly. So we have chatted before about Lucia. And I'm very excited to talk again, just to kind of see what are the updates, what's new, what's fresh, what's going on. And also, one conversation doesn't tick all of the boxes on the glacier of a topic that is finding and hiring and delegating and training all of the support that you need for our small businesses. It is still a really big topic on my side, even though I've now got into more like employee mode and I've hired my second employee. Like this topic just keeps coming around back in circles. So it's a good one to always kind of bring back and then also kind of see what are our new approaches, what are we learning? So welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank
Tell
you.
me what's fresh and new and exciting at Lucia.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we haven't talked in a while, and so
It's
the
been
answer
a
to that
while,
is
yeah.
a lot of things. But I will
Everything?
say, yeah, right. I would say a lot of things have changed for the better. We've learned a lot, but I would say the biggest things that we've learned and changed over the last year or so is probably that we've gotten a really big social media marketing, copywriting, like business development side of the platform that is just completely taken off. I think a lot of business
Interesting.
owners have now realized, specifically travel advisors, that in order to build your brand, you need to have you yourself a brand, and creating fantastic content that actually resonates with travelers and people looking to work with you and trust you. It requires them actually seeing you. And so as a result, that side of the business has just completely taken off. So that's, I think, the biggest improvement that we've made is like actually
Amazing.
introducing that.
Well, so introducing it, but then I'm sure on your side, it was also a big task to kind of source or vet or recruit, however you want to consider it, like finding those co-pilots that have those skills
Oh, yeah.
and that we're looking for this type of work.
Absolutely. I would say one of the hottest commodities right now is great content creating freelancers. That is like in especially like business owner land for tech founders, it is just like one of the hottest things to come by right now. And so finding that freelancers that are not just equipped, but like truly skilled in doing what we do for travel is its own specific angle. So takes a bit.
Yeah, no, you're right. The few copywriters and content creators that I've worked with, it wasn't just, oh, I need some travel related content. I actually had to give them like a crash course in the travel industry because a
Oh yeah.
lot of what they were, the types of blogs or social posts or newsletters or like whatever they were coming up with, the angle or the perspective always read blogger or like DIY traveler in my experience.
Exactly.
That I had to like, I was editing a lot. There was a lot of like suggestions on Google Docs. And I kind of realized I had to kind of take a step back and be like, oh, we need a bit of a crash course here. So like the way that we talk about travel, the way that we communicate with our clients is totally different
And the
than
content's usually too general is what I've found. Like a lot of the blog posts or, videos or like even posts captions were just incredibly general. And it was like,
Mhm.
no, we need to indicate here that we're experts and that we truly
Right.
have a specific angle to share. And that was the biggest challenge, was like finding people that can speak in that language.
And pulling the expertise out of us because right, they're not the
Yeah.
experts. They can't write on their own expertise. It's like this magical, strategy that they also have to like get what is locked down in our brains because it's there, but it's like
Mhm.
pulling it out of us and then, whipping it up into some beautiful caption that connects with people. It's not
Exactly.
easy. It like seems like way up here in the clouds, it seems so like content creation to inspire travel. That's easy, right? And then when you like get in the mud with it, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Ironically, most people now are either getting really great at it or it's the complete opposite and they're just taking whatever AI gives them. And like that's a big, big difference between the two. And so it's never been easier to stand out, ironically, I think. but it's also never been harder to, I think, just get started. I think a lot of people feel overwhelmed in order to get started.
Well, so let's talk about getting started. So, are we talking newsletters? Are we talking blogs? Are we talking a sales page? Are we talking social media captions? I mean, what does that actually mean, get started?
I have so many opinions on this, but I think just a mini 10-second crash course of like how I like to think about it when you're considering working with a freelancer or business or subscription service or employee, even for this. You need to think about which different parts of the funnel you're talking to people in. So for Lucia, we are crazy about our email marketing because that is at the end of the day what's going to get people to actually log onto our website. But then we also need to get really good at our top of funnel marketing, our, how are people finding us, et cetera. So there's top of funnel marketing and lower like down funnel
Mhm.
marketing. And
Mhm.
really top of funnel for us is like, how do people find out about us if they've never ever heard about us before?
Mhm.
A lot of people resort to referrals, which is great. And that's okay if that's your top of funnel. But then once they do hear about you, how are they going to eventually convert? And that's
Mhm.
where the email newsletters, the blogs, the, newsletters once a month, that's why those are important because people may learn about you once, but how are you going to get in touch with them over and over again to consider eventually working with you?
Well, because they might learn about you once, but if that's not hitting them right in the moment that they're ready to plan a trip,
Mhm.
it's gonna get
Doesn't
lost.
matter. Right. So you need to
Yeah.
be top of mind. You need to be relevant. And then at the end of the day, if let's say they do drop off, how do you recapture them again? Because they didn't leave your ecosystem, they just left
Mhm.
temporarily. So for us, when I'm working with someone that's considering doing content in general or business development in general, I say, think about breaking this down really into, basic sense here. Like, how are people initially finding out about you? And then how are they converting? Do you have some sort of like social media or outward facing way of attracting new people, and then for people that do find you new or people that have been in your ecosystem a while, how are you getting them to convert? And that's more the newsletter, blogs, website
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
retention opportunities.
How do you see people, like, working with, are you calling them business development managers? Is that kind of how they're identifying on
That's
as
a great way of
co-pilots?
putting it. I mean, probably sometimes we just call everyone co-pilots no matter what. I think it
Okay, okay,
depends. Some are doing more just specifically social media. Some are actually doing business development from like the
okay,
full funnel. So I think it varies depending on what
okay.
people need.
So if somebody came and said, and somebody is me, I'm going through this right now. Grace, new business cards are being delivered by UPS today, sometime in the next
So
2
excited.
hours. I got a
So
new
excited.
logo, I got new business cards, everything.
Amazing.
So the somebody is me. So somebody comes on to Lucia looking for a co-pilot, and it's like we've got repeat referral on lockdown. That's good, right? Everybody, if you have worked with me before, you know me, you're coming back to me, cool. But way up here, a travel advisor wants to get in front of a brand new audience, attracting people that they've never worked with. It might be within 2 or 3 degrees of separation. We just don't really know. Like, what type of work is that co-pilot helping them with? Is it social
Mhm.
media? Is it lead magnet kind of stuff? Like, do you know what it is? Are you in the weeds enough
Oh
to
yeah.
to
Oh
know
yeah.
what they're doing?
Definitely. And I'm ironically at the time of us doing this, I'm like literally hosting a live stream tomorrow on Instagram, like content creation. So it's like top of mind for me right now.
Perfect.
But I would say in general, when you're working with a co-pilot, they're going to initially, as long as you ask for it, they're going to initially consult you on what they recommend starting with. And typically, what we've found most of these co pilots working with advisors on is yes, finding lead magnets and
Mhm.
finding a way to build out that founder's brand. We've found that, especially right now, building out a founder's brand is the key to unlocking marketing in general right now. It seems to be like the hot way to really resonate with people. So
What does
it's,
that mean exactly? That
yeah,
sounds really sexy, but like, say more words.
so fair enough. So with all of the stuff you see on social media, who do you listen to? You listen to people. You're not listening to some, marketing campaign about like these are the features, these are the whatever. No, I want to feel emotionally connected to your business. There are so many travel advisors out there. Why am I choosing you? There needs to be some sort of emotional attachment. So when I say founder brand, I need people to know that I've got a new last name and I got married. They're going to feel emotionally resonate. Oh, it's so cool. Awesome. Fine. Then the next post they see is, oh my goodness, like I'm having my first business meetings in DC now that I've moved here. Oh, these are the updates on the business. Notice it's some personal, some professional, some
Mhm.
things that are topics that are important to me. I'm creating a story around me and the business, not solely around the business. And as
Sure.
a result, people are coming in emotionally connected to me and how it connects to the business, if that makes sense.
So are you seeing that a lot of advisors are coming in looking for a co-pilot to help them with this, but they're not necessarily expected to have all the answers prior to connecting with the co-pilot. There might be a co-pilot that is ready and equipped to kind of walk them through this getting started process.
I would say most of the people that come use our platform have no idea what they actually want yet, which is awesome. And that's completely fine. I would say most of the co pilots do the hand holding of, okay, I know you think you need this, but maybe can you consider this and here's why. And
Mhm.
that's really the opportunity where you can learn not just about, you know, maybe Instagram isn't even where your clients are. Maybe Facebook isn't even where your clients are. Maybe it's LinkedIn. Like you need to figure out where you're actually going to meet the right people and create the right content, and they'll be able to walk you through that.
Amazing. Well, this is really exciting. I feel like, as you said, a lot of really fabulous things have changed on Lucia. And to see what people are now looking to co-pilots for, and like your co-pilots have stepped up. It's very impressive.
They've been fantastic. And we've gotten a little ruthless, I'll be honest with you, about like the onboarding process. Now we say no way more than we say yes to new co-pilots. We've had a wait list up for over 6 months because we want to make sure that the co-pilots on the platform are getting quality, good repeat business before we start like opening the floodgates. So this isn't an Upwork situation in which anyone can.
Anyone can sign up at any time. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't benefit anyone that way.
So, do you see any trends or patterns from advisors just in terms of like, are these newer advisors? Are these experienced advisors? What is the average investment per advisor per month? Like, what can you share with us just so that we can kind of build a mental picture of the average advisor on Lucia?
Great question. I would say the average advisor that won't use us is someone that maybe has multiple employees and they're not looking to necessarily grow. And what I mean by that is someone that has multiple employees and doesn't feel like they have any ad hoc new projects that they want to work
Hmm.
on. And that's
Hmm.
completely fine. But brand new advisors use us a lot for like consulting on setting up new technologies, getting them set up in maybe a Travify or Travel Joy or something like that, maybe getting them onboarded from old platforms to new ones. So the brand new advisor is most often coming to us because we're experts in this industry and maybe they need some help in that area. Then you have the advisor that is probably doing this full time. We have some that are part time doing this because they're balancing multiple jobs, but for the
Hmm.
most part, full time, that are looking for help with a VA or someone to help grow their business. And they don't need someone that's 40 hours a week. I would say
Okay.
90% of advisors do not need someone full time in their business to be doing social media work. Like
Sure, sure.
you
Yeah.
need someone a couple hours a week to be like an efficient use of time.
Hmm.
And you can hire someone for 40 hours a week to do a lot of your VA work, but do you actually get the value add from it? I don't know. So typically we're finding anyone until they're bringing on multiple employees is a really good fit for us.
Perfect. How If we take a step back, I think that there is a lot of conversation in our industry about, and it's mostly me saying, like, hire like 5 years earlier than I did for starters. Like, just do it sooner, do it even when you feel like you don't have enough money to do it, because it will help you, propel you into the next stage of business growth. But I think that it's kind of like, okay, we understand we need to hire, but then it's like, how? And then suddenly, as soon as you start really thinking about it, like deciding, okay, I'm going to go down this path, I'm going to figure out what to hire, then it's like 1,000 more questions come up of like, well, what am I going to have them do? How do I decide what to delegate? What do I delegate first? And then what do I delegate next? And then what do I need to have ready before I hire someone? And then I just watch people spiral. Just,
Oh yeah.
and it's totally understandable. Like, it's
Oh yeah.
not, I mean, these are really good, serious, good questions of people trying to think this through and make sure that they do it properly. So if we just like take a deep breath and think through all of these questions that are quite honestly paralyzing people at the moment because I see a lot of people get really stuck in this and then I'll hear them talk about quote unquote hiring for 6 months and they're not taking the next step because they're just stuck in this circle.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you observed and what are you also coaching? I imagine there's got to be a little bit of it going on in terms of like really getting started and like what to think about might be a good place to just dip your toe in and how to dip your toe in a way that you feel prepared so that this new co-pilot doesn't just set off chaos in your business, but it actually, that co-pilot is bringing value to you.
So many things to say. Oh my goodness. I'll synthesize it as best as possible. But I would say, first of all, take a deep breath. It is going to be far harder, far more difficult to do all of these things at once that you want to do as a business owner than what you should do as a start. So, the first thing that I like to tell everyone that's joining me on a demo, because I do all of our demos myself,
Okay.
is you need to have really good business hygiene in order to bring someone into your business. First of all, you should have good business hygiene, period. But
Hmm.
that doesn't mean everyone gets around to it. When you live alone, it doesn't matter if you leave your socks everywhere. The second anyone steps into your apartment, it matters all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
You need to clean the house before someone comes over, basically. And so you need to get set up so that you know where things are. You can pull things from them. That seems incredibly overwhelming, though. So, what I actually like to say is if you do not have time for the business hygiene and you need someone to actually even help you with it, that's completely fine. But the way I recommend getting started is start with something that is bite sized. You do not need an assistant to come into your business and take over your CRM. You do not need someone to come in and build out your social media with a 4-month plan of content calendars on 4 different platforms. Oh my gosh, you have created such a headache in your life that you don't need just yet. So, if you're trying to make something easy, I always recommend starting with an itinerary. Like, that's how Lucia was originally born out of, was just creating itineraries for people.
Yep.
Start there. Like, do you need someone to put the details of an itinerary that a supplier sent you into TravelJoy or Travify or whatever?
Hmm.
Have a co-pilot start and end there. That's a really simple starting point. Or can you take this video and edit it into a reel? Like, take a starting and ending point where someone can bite that off for you and you just dip your toe into the experience without getting so frustrated before trying it.
I think you said two really important things here. A, you have to have business hygiene because as you were just getting started, I was thinking, I know from my experience in the Advisor Accelerator that everyone's focus is always marketing because it feels, as a business owner,
Feels productive.
it feels productive and it feels really heavy when the inquiries aren't coming in. Like that's what you go to sleep thinking about. You don't go to sleep thinking about my travel joy could be a little more organized, right? So everyone kind of goes straight to marketing. And I think that that's probably why you see, I need a 4-month social media plan on all the platforms to make sure that the leads come in. And what I always ask is if 15 new leads came into your business in the next 10 days, could you handle it? And almost 10 times out of 10, let's say 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So
Exactly.
if you can't handle that gigantic influx of leads that the marketing is hopefully going to produce for you, because that's ultimately the purpose of the marketing, then we don't have any business focusing on marketing yet. We need to do the business hygiene. So I'm so glad that you said that because that's not the fun stuff to hire for. That's
I'll,
not the
I'll
stuff
be
that
honest with you.
clients are going to see on the outside looking in, they're not going to notice it. But if you don't do that at the beginning, bringing someone into your dirty sock situation is not going to be nice.
I'll be honest with you. This is such a terrible thing for me to even say because it would kill my business, truly. I don't think most people need one. I don't think most people that come to us need the amount of support they think they need. I think most people are overwhelmed and it's easier to feel very busy than to start doing some of the harder projects that most people don't want to do. And I'm not saying you don't need one ever. I'm just saying there's a lot of things that you probably need to either stop doing because it's not useful or cut it out because you're making more work for yourself Or like, I think there's a lot of things that most advisors could look into their day to day and say, if I streamlined this for myself, I probably wouldn't even need that assistant. I probably would not feel as overwhelmed as I am right now. And it's a matter of, first of all, just feeling like you've got your business mechanically set up. And if you don't and you need support, that is why you're here. And that is completely okay. But I would say most people, need to get some better business hygiene so that they can take a look and see if they can even afford it or need it or warrants it.
Well, and you make such a good point because if we are hiring, like if we're hiring early, as I'm often an advocate for,
Hmm.
but if now we are simply just paying two people to work inefficiently, that
Exactly.
is very quickly going to become like financially cumbersome for your
Exactly.
business. The
And
only
they're going to
way
be
it
just
works,
as confused as you are. Like they're
yeah,
going to be just as confused as, so like, what do I do here? Or there's going to be no actual output from the situation.
yeah, the only way that hiring early benefits you and actually helps you slingshot forward in a way that you couldn't do yourself is if you have gone through the business hygiene stuff and you have everything set up. So I almost do you see people coming in asking for support to clean up the back end stuff? Like, is that their initial ask, or is that not their initial ask and that coaching or that guidance is coming from your side?
Love that question. And yeah, that's the asterisk to the point I made earlier is really what people need to be asking is, I need to help get everything cleaned up and I need to figure out where my processes are or even create them. And I am the best example of this. I was running Lucia like a mad hatter. I couldn't figure out how to be spending my days. I had no clear vision or purpose. And this is, I'm not talking about like years ago. I'm talking about like earlier this year, where I'd
Mhm.
find myself running all over the place, not actually accomplishing any of the things I needed to get done. My mentor advised me to finally bring in an assistant. I'm like, the irony here is that I
The
like
irony.
actually did this and this is the business I run, right? Oh
Turns
yeah.
out I'm surrounded by
Super
them.
ironic, super, and luckily, like for Lucia, we only hire usually from our co-pilot pool. So like our team is entirely built out of our own co-pilots, which is fantastic. But finally went and got a co-pilot to be an assistant. She's now full time. Like she is with us all the time. And she did the best job ever of saying, Grace, you do not need me to do X, Y, and Z. I need to like clean up your Notion pages. I need to make sure that your inbox sorts out all the nonsense. I need to like actually start time blocking you for things. And when that happened, I became, I would say, like 10x more productive. And now she rarely does as much admin work as she's really doing more operationally like projects that I need her to do. But the first month of working together was that setup. And so I would say for everyone considering this, if you're like, I don't have time for the hygiene, it's too overwhelming. I I just don't even have the time to do the process of sitting that down. Great. Come to us and get a co pilot to clean things up with you and for you and have them be the instigator. But don't be surprised when they start like, uncovering things that maybe you haven't wanted to dive into in a while. It'll be really helpful if you're willing to do the work there.
So you say she's time blocking you? Do you do what she says in those time
Yeah.
blocks?
Yeah. And if you don't, you're just like, it's going to make your life so much harder. I would say there are definitely times where I'm like, I should be doing this recording or this Instagram upload. And I'm like, I need to actually get back to these emails. And in that case, I'll just move the block. And
Yeah.
that's useful because then I actually keep it as a reminder of I need to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just ignore it, it never gets
Mhm.
done.
Yeah. Okay. So business hygiene. Then I think the other really amazing point that you made before is giving a co pilot something that has a clear start and end. And I think that this didn't come naturally to me at the very beginning when I was delegating. So tell me what that means in your words, and then I'll share like what I've learned in that regard as well.
I think part of the reason why working with someone in your team is so overwhelming is because you don't even know really where to begin. And it feels like you need them to take over everything. And so as a result, nothing gets taken over. And so what I found was, and I told you this before we hopped on the call, like I never really knew how to coach people through this until recently. So this is like kind of new way that we started explaining it is that if you have something that's very, very bite sized, and I mean really tiny and minuscule, you can see the immediate effect and result of the work that they do. If you hand something off to someone, like, I need you to just time block my calendar in general, that isn't a very clear expectation. There's no clear deliverable. You need a clear
Mhm.
deliverable to feel you're getting value out of this. And until you've set up your rapport with the VA or an assistant or someone where now you don't need to do that anymore, it really benefits you because you can attribute the dollar amount to it. You can feel the true value from it. I think most people come to us, start paying us a good amount of money for our services and don't feel the value because there's no clear expectations of what the deliverables are. But if you can say, this person, check off this off my list, check this off my list, and now you can go down a specific list, there's a real return attributed to that.
Yes. Well, and you feel it too. Like when
Oh
it's
yeah.
a clearly defined thing that was done for you that you are no longer having to do yourself, the weight that you feel lifted off you is exponential. Whereas when it's like this muddy water of like, well, they supported me on this, but then I had to come back in and do this other part. And then
Mhm.
I guess they're just done. I'm going to finish this now. They did what you asked them to do, but it
But
didn't
they didn't
have
feel that way.
clearly defined parameters.
Exactly.
So it didn't feel like a big thing was lifted off your plate.
Exactly. And I think in the end, you'll end up feeling like nothing was truly of value coming out of it. You did some extra work on the side, so it felt like you didn't actually get what you were asking for. And if you have, like I said, that little bit of hygiene, if you get type A on the way that you work with an assistant, like you don't have to be the rest of your life, but if you just kind of say and sit yourself down and be like, okay, I need to be type A with this person for the first few weeks, you'll see the value that comes from it is exponential. But until you like agree to be type A in that sense, it's going to be really hard to
I've
outsource anything.
Can you give a couple examples of like bite-sized, clearly defined start and finish deliverable types of tasks that you're seeing advisors delegate to co-pilots?
Easy one is itinerary building. But I don't mean like sending them itinerary details over the course of weeks. I mean, you got an itinerary proposal from a supplier and they're going to convert it into your itinerary tool for you. That's one. There's a start and an end. It's very explicit what the deliverable is.
Mhm.
Now, you may do some edits back and forth, perhaps, sure, but that still is a very much a start and end. Another would be, I need you to take this video that I took or these collection of videos I took from this fam trip or photos, and I need you to create edited video reels or posts for this week or this specific post. I like to say, like, if you took video from a fam, like you might use it for the next 2 weeks, maybe longer, but just for this example, I need you to create the exact posts for all of these for 2 weeks worth of content. Now they will deliver you the post, the caption, the date you should post it. That is very clear and definitive of 7 or 14 days worth of content. Then it's
Mhm.
done. Then it's over. And that's a really easy start and end. I would say probably the last one that would be a really useful one is setting up like to-dos in your Travify or Traveljoy of, I need you to create a specific task list for when I'm, sending someone on a FIT trip, a very specific to-do task list template in my Traveljoy.
Sure.
Start and end, start and end. Can
Mhm.
someone finish this and say, I'm done, hands up, pencils down? Can you
Right.
operate that way? That's a really good question to ask yourself
Mhm.
instead of just working on repeat over and over again.
Right. So how does it work between an advisor and a co-pilot? Does it always feel like it's these mini projects where it's like, I need you to do this thing, kind of like the fam photo turning into real project that you shared? Or now I'm just blanking. What was the very first one you said?
The itinerary building.
Oh yeah, the itinerary building. Like, are co-pilots kind of available in a way that you send it to them when you send it to them and they try to get it back within a certain time frame? Or how is that communication and engagement going on between co-pilots and advisors?
Yeah. And the way I'm explaining it in this way is very rigid, and I know that. And that, to be honest with you, should be how you start with any employee, any contractor, even any partner that you're working with. It's really healthy to have very, very explicit start end expectations on things. That's, again, really good business hygiene. Once you build a rapport, understand each other, you can trust them with larger projects and understand what the deliverable of that would be at a broader scope, then I think you can absolutely move into that. So this isn't a fun answer to say, but I think you should always be operating that way with a team. Obviously, you want them to be able to run with things, but if there's no clear expectations, how can they measure their own success on things up to your scale? So I think it's healthy to be very explicit, but in no way on the platforms you need to operate that way when it comes to billing or the way that you delegate things to them. You don't need to actually operate that way, but in your communication pattern, you should try to be.
I think the reason I'm wondering is because some of my bite size, like clearly defined tasks that I delegate first are kind of like as they come in. So, for example,
Yeah, of
I
course.
use Calendly to schedule discovery calls. And so it's like one of the very first things I share with a new person on my team is how to set up and prepare for discovery call. Because right now, the way that I have things set up, if someone schedules a discovery call, like 99% of the time, that's moving forward as a trip plan
Mhm.
situation. So I set it up as such. So the trigger, let's say, is a discovery call is scheduled, and we get like that Calendly notification in our inbox. And then they have about, I don't know, 8 or 10 tasks of like create the new folder in Gmail, create the new folder in Google Drive, set up the
Mhm.
Google Doc and transfer in their new inquiry details that they shared with us into the doc so I can take notes there. And so there's just like this little workflow and it has a very clear end.
Yeah, that totally would be a great use case. And yes, you may not know when those are coming in, but you can absolutely set it up so that someone is taking over that task with you when it
When it
does come in.
does. Yeah.
100%. And I think that's a
Yeah.
really healthy way of setting it up, to be honest with you.
And something as small as that in reality, this was one of the hardest things for me to delegate at the beginning because, like, to do everything on this little mini workflow takes 3.5 minutes. Like, it really doesn't take that much time, but it is clear. There's a clear start and end. There's a clear deliverable. And now when I have a discovery call, I don't have to go looking for anything. I open up a folder that didn't exist 48 hours ago and now it does. And I'm already just looking for it as if it's always been there. And I'm
Exactly.
opening up a doc that is not just an empty blinking cursor. It is like a templated doc with all the notes transferred from the inquiry form into this doc. So it's just ready to go. And I just click start call 1 minute before the call starts. Like I don't have to do anything. So
Mhm.
it actually feels like a gigantic weight lifted off my chest, regardless of the fact that it took that person 3.5 minutes to do it.
Now imagine you can break down your entire business into little mini projects like that. And most people think that you can't, and I promise you, you can.
I promise
Whether
you, you
it's
can.
you promise you can, and I'm not saying that that's reasonable forever, but I'm just saying the way that you start slowly and feel good about it and you feel like it's manageable for you, that's the secret. Break it down into really tiny bites and just do one at a time, whether it's an
Mhm.
inquiry form or it's setting up some other tiny task in the business. Start with one, make sure it's specific, make sure it's something that you can completely remove yourself from in some way. And you'll feel like a huge weight is lifted off your shoulders. And you're right, like there's nothing complex about that at all.
Nothing, nothing.
It
No.
feels amazing, and it actually
Yeah.
did save you a good amount of time, and once you do that with 15 other things,
Yep.
now we're rolling. Now we're in business.
So how many I you probably don't have the data, but I'm such a data nerd that I really want to get into Lucia and be like, show me all the ways people are working with co-pilots.
Oh, no,
Um,
we have crazy data.
do you really? Okay,
Oh,
so
we
do
have
you
crazy data, it's
know
awesome.
how much time or money or any sort of a data point is connected to dining reservations and research?
That
Because
I
this will
ironically that's so funny. I love that question. So dining research and, like, booking dinner reservations, basically?
And then, yeah, so basically, like the research of what to recommend or to book, then actually confirming the reservations for the client, and then putting the confirmed reservations into an itinerary builder. In my mind, that's like the dining workflow.
Yes, it is. I don't have the specific data on, like, how much time it takes someone for a specific dinner reservation. I have it like attributed to like spend, but I would say most often, I don't have the answer that you want, unfortunately.
Just
But I
tell me what
will
you do
say,
have.
what I do have and what I do know is that a lot of advisors that are using us for that, they are the ones that charge a fee for their time.
For sure.
And sometimes they're even doing like billing back of the amount of hours that they have like done with a co-pilot, and they're just billing it to the client. Most often they're doing one of those two things. So not usually both, but like one or the other.
Hmm.
And what I do know is that a lot of our co-pilots that are doing these sorts of things are exponentially faster than any of us doing it on our own because they're doing it all the day long. Like this is what they do. They're booking dinner reservations and like inputting this stuff all the time. Like I have a co-pilot that spends her entire day doing this. And so she's just got it on lock. Whereas if you have someone that's doing like 15 different projects at once, it's going to take them a lot more time.
So that's why I think why I hate this so much. If I ever see any part of our industry where everyone's working in silos, which is fundamentally our entire industry, really bugs me. I just I hired a new employee in August. And of course, September and October have just been like absolutely bonkers with all of our departures because it's the busiest time of the year for us. And so essentially, this has been her job since she came on board. And I feel it's not going to be this way. And like one more week, it's not going to be this way. But I feel currently as if I'm paying a full time employee for dining reservations, which is not financially feasible because dining reservations don't generate revenue. So
Mm,
as a business owner, I'm just like, right. But it used to be me doing it. And then it was my first assistant. And now it's my new. So it's like somebody's always doing it. Right. But it's just the amount of time that we're spending. And I just think like none of my clients are reinventing the wheel and going to any place fabulous. Like anyone like your co-pilots who are doing this all the time, they for sure know the top 5 restaurants in Athens and the top 10 in Santorini and the top 5 in Rome, close to the Spanish Steps, because that's where a bunch of the hotels are. Like my guess is that they don't actually need to research. They just have
no,
their
yeah.
short list
Oh, yeah.
of options.
Definitely. And I would say most often, to be honest with you, most people that are using us for dining, they do it a really smart way where they're not doing it on an hourly rate. They're booking a co-pilot to say, like, I need you to go book dinner reservations for these 3 or 5 days at these cities. And they'll set a price to it, a specific price, not a dollar amount that can fluctuate. They're going to say for maybe $100, I need you to make all of these dinner reservations and do the research and put it all together and send them all to me confirmed by Friday. Now you know the exact dollar amount attributed to that you spent on it. And it doesn't matter if it took them 20 hours or 10 minutes. You
They
know
accepted
yours
it.
exactly. And they know that depending upon the amount of time they spend, like they have to agree to it. Like you can't just place a request for $10 and expect someone to go make 10 dinner reservations. But the market is very efficient that way for our platform, and that a lot of these co-pilots like know what it is worth it to them, and it doesn't matter how much time they end up spending because you attribute it to a dollar amount rather than all this back and forth.
That's a really good. I knew that you had that option and I had forgotten about it. That's a really good
Yeah, because
approach to
time
something
spent
like
shouldn't
this.
matter. Like the amount of time spent on this as a business owner, what really matters to you is how much you're
The
spending on it
cost.
because it's a
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
So, sure, like you don't want to waste her time, of course. But at the end of the day, from a business perspective, you need to say, sure, her time, but like, am I wasting money? How much? And if you
Hmm.
can't quantify that, like if you're a data person, you need to know that. Like, how much money am I spending on this? Because am I
Yeah.
charging enough fees at the end of the day?
Hmm. Right.
And if you don't know, using our platform is actually hilariously a really great way to keep your spending under control.
Well, because you're seeing it like in your face. Like it's very clear. Because I think the only other way to do it if you're not on a platform like Lucia is very detailed time tracking, which is not easy all the time, to be honest.
And also, there's an element of trust that you need to have, which is really challenging. And I've struggled with this in the past where, like, you need to just trust people saying that it took them this much time.
Hmm.
And what we found with Lucia is that because everyone gets reviews and ratings, and also because they're business owners in it of themselves, these co pilots, Like they are very, very ethical as a result. And you get to see like the feedback from other advisors. If it took them no time, a lot of time, how long did it take them? Did they waste my money? Did I feel like I got a good value?
Yeah.
And that's a really good way to keep everyone in check.
I think I'm so glad you reminded me about this approach of Lucia of saying, like, this is what I need in these reservations in this city or in this country. And here's what I am willing to pay for it type of situation. Because then a co pilot, they know whether they have that research or not. They
Oh, yeah.
know whether they have the short list of reservations in those cities or not. And so they're only going to say yes if that's a good, like, value for
Exactly, for
them.
them. Like, there's gonna be a couple co-pilots that are probably like, "Heck no." Like, I don't
Because
it's
they would
gonna
have to
take
start from
way too much
scratch.
time. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
there's a co-pilot that's like, "Oh, I just did this like an hour ago." Like,
exactly,
pile it on.
exactly.
Or a co-pilot that's, maybe looking to bring on some more clientele and they're willing to work for a different dollar amount than someone else. The market
Knowing that that research is gonna then be used for the next advisor who needs dining reservations in Tokyo.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of our co-pilots are people from they have to be, right? Like, they have to be people that have worked in the industry. So even if they're new to our platform, they may come to us already with this massive list of restaurants that they know and love. So, like, there's just so much of a learning curve that's removed as a result.
I might be rethinking my dining approach, and I might be
Girl, I'm
bringing on some
nervous how much
Lucia
you're spending on
co-pilots.
dining right now. I'm nervous for you.
Well, this month, like, I will be honest, as a business owner, the last 6 weeks as I'm paying payroll, I've just had to have, like, a little meditative moment with myself,
Mhm.
reminding myself that onboarding a new employee is cumbersome and expensive. We are in, like, the thick of departures right now, and we can, like, see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I just have to keep reminding myself that this is not a forever situation. It is slowing down soon, and even when someone is super smart, super capable, catches on quick, developing her own systems, like in working with us for 6 weeks, she already has her full, like, dining system spreadsheet on lockdown. So, like, she is working efficiently, but still, when you're doing something for the first time, it doesn't matter how many maps and restaurant lists that I give you that I've developed over the last 5 years. She's doing it for the first time. And so it has taken a lot of friendly reminders to myself of, like, this isn't a forever state. But you bring up a really good point in that if someone is doing dining all day, every day, and we're talking about European destinations where it's always the same places, no matter how efficient and organized we are on our side, so that person who's doing that all day, every day is probably still even more efficient. And the person who I've hired who is super smart and super capable might be better used elsewhere.
I guarantee it. And she probably knows it. He or she, like, they probably know it. And so, yeah, it's so tough. I think when a lot of advisors come to us super overwhelmed, they wanna throw, like, the most inconvenient, unfigured out part of their business at co-pilots
Yeah.
because it feels messy and
Like,
hard.
just figure this out. Somebody,
Exactly. And then you're just throwing money
which
into
is not, yeah, which is
waste.
not a good idea.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would say ironically, the most figured out part, as much as you love how clean and neat that is, like,
Yeah.
give that to them because that's yeah, like, that's the way you have to flip it around. Give them the neat and organized side of things, and then take on the messy stuff for yourself, because once you have figured out and digested that part of things and made it clean and neat, then you actually can hand it off, and you won't be lighting money on fire.
So I want to circle back around to something that you said about, like, if some advisors could actually look through their workflow and actually stop doing things that weren't serving them and, like, simplify their process a little bit.
Mhm,
This is one thing that we have talked about with the dining specifically. We I used to assume that everybody wanted dining recommendations the way that I personally want dining recommendations, which is like, give me 2 options for every single night. I will have fun looking through the pared down curated list, and I will tell you which one I want. And what we found is that probably only 50 to 60% of our clients, like, get excited by that email. And the other 30 to 40% don't respond. We're following up. We're like, please, can you let us know where you want to dine? Or they do respond And it's like, let's say in a 12-day trip, they're like, okay, we can confirm these 3 restaurants, but like just leave the other nights open. And so, but the time that we're investing in like coming up with that many options and then presenting it in a way that is like digestible and like easy to navigate, I'm now creating a like a type form. And I wish that it wasn't another like system, like I wish I could just do it in like a travel joy or a turn kind of form. But the reason it's going to be in type form is because it can be based on logic to say like, do you want spa? No. Okay, no more spa questions, right? Like I can't use that kind of logic. I have the travel joy forms already done and I can't use them because it's like I can't ask you 10 spa questions if you don't want spa, right?
Exactly.
So I'm making a type form that is like giving you like kind of a level 1, level 2, level 3 approach to dining of like just put some recs in our itinerary. Right, we're
Exactly.
good. Or literally, we want dining every single night. We will put our credit card down. We don't plan to cancel. We truly want like the full shebang so that we are no longer offering the full shebang to people who actually have no interest in it. So we are paring
Yeah.
it down.
Talk about a great thing that you can just hand off to someone to build for you. Like I'm not saying you
Exactly.
necessarily, but I'm saying anyone that's like, oh, that sounds so great. Like I should make a logic based type form so that I don't have to ask them 100 questions they don't want to answer. You're absolutely right. That is a start and a finishable thing you
Exactly.
could have a co-pilot work on. Like
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I know Typeform really well because all of the forms for the Hive are built in Typeform and they're really complicated. But if you've never used Typeform before, don't go spend 2 hours trying to learn how to make a logic based form on Typeform. Hire a co-pilot to do that. Somebody on Lucia knows how to do that for
Oh yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And we did that with all our email marketing. Like we use Customer IO. We used to be on MailChimp and then Flowdesk. We actually just switched to Customer IO because we need more data-based kind of logic now. But that is a lot of complex interconnecting workings of like if this, then that
Yes.
for many different use cases.
Uh-huh.
And I had a co-pilot build the entire thing. The logic, and I had them build the logic. And then I had someone else come in and do the content. And then a third person come in and do all the illustrations and the design. And then I
Wow.
had someone build in the backend integrations from all of our different funnel like trigger points. And that was like 4 different people. But because I was so efficiently like spending on specific people, it was
Yeah.
like the most inexpensive and quickest project when we finally were able to like stop having me try to build it all.
Right.
It took me like 3 months to finally admit that I didn't have time and didn't know what I was doing. And then it took us like 3 weeks to actually have someone else do it the right way.
I love it. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to step off my dieting soapbox for a second. Are there any other like big chunks of the either the trip design workflow or just like all of the ancillary things that business owners have to do that you see as like that
Yeah.
is a perfect use case for co-pilots and advisors are doing this a lot.
Yeah, I'll shoot off a couple commissions
I
and
was going to say
invoicing.
commissions.
Commissions and invoicing, commission
Yep.
tracking. I don't care what tool you use, how antiquated or how new it is. Commissions, the flow of the business, whether it's creating the flow for the first time or actually executing on the flow, that once you start building out an actual task based project for how itineraries are supposed to flow, you can actually start hand off pieces of those projects. Like make sure you email suppliers 30 days out. Like when that trigger comes through or that reminder comes through, you don't have to be the one to send that email, or it can be automatic. But like my point is that all these different pieces can be handed off. The actual itinerary building in and of itself,
Mhm.
and then obviously the business development stuff. But I would say the entire back end, like administrative side of the business, virtually could be handed off in its entirety. It just has to be down between like task, finance, marketing, email inbox, CRM management, client relationship management.
Mhm.
And there's bunches in there, I would say.
Kind of needs to be in buckets.
Yeah.
And maybe it gets bigger and maybe it gets a little bit more complex as you get to know a co-pilot and as you work with them more. But I think if we can take anything from this conversation is like what we should be starting with is like the smallest, most bite-sized chunk possible.
Hmm.
That almost seems like it takes 3.5 minutes to set up an email folder in Gmail and a Google Drive folder. Why on earth would I delegate that? No, that's exactly what you should delegate first. and just tiptoe your way through your workflow
I know
little by
most people
little.
that come to us so overwhelmed, like super overwhelmed. I know if they're going to end up using us or not, because whether or not they're willing to do that kind of bite-sized chunk, or someone that's just
Yeah. Somebody,
I don't know. I need them to just
I,
do all of it. And I'm like, well, that means they're
yeah,
going to do none of it. You're not going to be able to
exactly.
use us. And that's completely fine when you're ready to have that conversation of like what that specific thing should be. Then you'll be ready for it. But getting overwhelmed is like the hardest hurdle for us finding new
Mhm.
clients. Like we just need to get new clients over that hurdle.
Yeah. Grace, thanks so much for chatting with me today. It's super exciting to hear the updates about
Of course.
Lucia. Now I think I have 2 employees, and now I think I need a Lucia Copilot for dining. So I'm gonna go sort that
I
out.
love it. I love it.
Good. I have a meeting with my team this week to be like, so that happened. August and
Mhm.
September happened. So what did we learn from that? How can we improve? How can we optimize? And now that things are slowing down a bit in terms of departures, how can we like take a deep breath and prepare for the next wave, coming
Oh
after
yeah.
the new year? So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's always needed. But thank you so much. And congrats on Lucia. It's really exciting to just kind of check in periodically and kind of see what's new and see what advisors are loving and see how co-pilots are evolving. It is super cool to see co-pilots stepping into this travel specific content creation because it is a behemoth of a glacier, my goodness. And the business development part of like, let's clean up your business first. I actually know what I'm talking about. Let me help guide you through this process. Like, this is incredible. So,
Thank
congrats
you.
on all
Thank
of
you. And
this,
you've
all of
been
these
here for
evolutions.
yeah, you've been here for all of it, literally since the trip kit days.
It's
So
trip kit. Yeah.
truly, you've been here for all of it. You've seen the evolution. And I think and at the end of the day, we really just, same as you, just really want to be able to help bring value. So I appreciate you pulling all of those pieces out of me and making sure we can provide it. So thank you.
I love it. Thanks. We'll see you soon for the next update.
Thank you. Chat soon.